Hello and welcome to the Planner Pals podcast, a podcast hosted by two true Planner Pals. My name is Mark and I go by Mark Your Pages.
And I'm Jess, or Jashikaran, and in this episode, I feel like this episode is like just for Mark, really. Because honestly, I feel like you have more of a, what's the word? What's the word that I can put as nicely? You are more of a persnickety biscuit when it comes to pens than I am. But that is what we're going to be talking about today. Our favorite pens, our ride or dies, where they're ride or dies. I know we've talked about this before. I don't know the terminology. I shouldn't use it, but I'm going to keep doing it. But whichever pens we are always picking up, they're the ones that as soon as we need one, it's going to be the default. And if it broke, we would replace it. If it runs out, we would replace it. I always find that that's a really good measure for whether something's your favorite. Like, if I did not have this, but I knew about it, would I get it again?
And this episode is not just for me because we're talking more than just fountain pens, even though I would love to do another fountain pen episode. But this are just, kind of the pens, like you said, that we're going for and loving. And the hope really is maybe to introduce you to something that you don't know about. But I really honestly feel like this is an episode for the Planner Pals because we are all persnickety biscuits when we come to our pens. The one thing that I don't hold back against now, especially as I've gotten more into fountain pens and inks, is the color, because there are certain people who will not use a blue pen no matter what. It is only black, and I've never seen anyone use a red pen outside of like a teacher like circling things that are wrong, but people are out there. But I'm really excited because I've been on a pen journey for a very long time. I remember when I first started with journaling as a whole, I was just using anything that was out there. And I don't even know the name of the pen that I originally loved, but it was always the ones that I got from doctor's offices. And they had this like interesting body style to it. I didn't know anything about pens until really I started getting more into journaling as a whole. And it became a really important part of my life because you're writing with this instrument, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to use this every day. And I've tried them all. I've got them all behind me. You can see them all because I don't get rid of pens unless they're crappy. I have a bunch of the not as fancy ones in my drawer. Like they're all over the place, but I definitely have my favorites. But Jess, why don't we start with you today? Because I'll just talk forever about pens if you let me. But let's start with one of your very first pens that's your all-time favorite or your go-to.
My all-time favorite, go-to, like tried and true, treasured pen. All right, this is the one that as soon as somebody asks, what's your favorite? This is the one that comes up. And being one of those people who is a little bit particular about having a black ink pen in their notebook, it had to be black. So that would be the Papermate InkJoy gel pen. I know it's not like everybody's favorite. And I know that in particular, some people find that when they get it, it skips. I have had some that have done that previously, but in the grand scheme of things, like, given how many of them I've had, that's like 0.2% of the ones that I've tried out. Okay, that math is bad math. All right, do not quote me on that math because I have not tried like 10,000 of this pen. But I love the quality of the black ink. I love that it is like super dark, saturated. I don't like it when you write with a black pen and then after it dries, it's kind of just like a charcoal gray. I'm like, no, I picked up a black pen for a reason. I want it like pitch, noir, like very, very dark. And this pen does that for me. In terms of the kind of like, dry time and such like that, it is on the inkier side. It is a gel pen. So it does take a little bit longer, maybe not as friendly for lefties. I'm pretty sure in their marketing materials, they say that it's quick drying. I don't write with my left hand all that often. I'm not out here intentionally smudging my pen very often, unless it's like specifically for a journal notebook test or something like that. But I do love the black quality. I like the thickness of it because it's a 0.7. I do prefer my line weight to be a little bit heavier. I'm not out here with those like needlepoint pens, which for some handwriting looks gorgeous. For mine, it does not. So that one is definitely my go-to.
Yeah, everything that you just said on why you love it is all of the reasons that I'm not as a fan of it because I have seen them out there. I can say that I really do like the grip on those pens because they're kind of made out of kind of a whole grippy kind of material, which I think was really nice. But I am the person who likes the needlepoint fine tips and that 0.7. And I think even one that I got might have been a 1.0 millimeter too. It just felt very big and very thick. And especially for me as a lefty and using pens and smearing off them with them, I was just not as much of a fan of them because of those reasons there. But I know that you're a hardcore fan, which I very much appreciate. And I know that's like you're always your go-to. And I was like, no, I'm going to give it a try. And I've tried them before, but it was just one of those things that didn't quite work out for me though. But I know a lot of people that I do love them.
No, that's very fair. I mean, as a right-handed person, I don't usually have the kind of smudging and smearing issue quite as much. Another thing I do definitely love about it is that because the barrel of the pen has that kind of see-through section, you can see how much ink is left in your pen, which when it starts to kind of like, get a little fainter, maybe that black isn't as saturated, maybe it's skipping a little bit, I can just roll the pen over and say, it's because you don't have any ink left. Time to get a new one.
It's those features that really do make a really big difference. A lot of the pens that I have are transparent for that reason. It's something that I don't think you always think about until your pen is running out of ink, because usually they're encased in something, especially if it's like a gel pen or, kind of a normal pen, not a fountain pen. You don't worry about it because it seems like they last forever, and they do, which is funny because as a person who has a lot of pens, and I'm always like, oh, but I what if it runs out of ink? And I've never actually taken time to like use one pen for like every day for X amount of time to see how long it writes for. I don't know anybody who does that necessarily, but I bulk buy my favorite pens. Like that's just how I roll, because I'm just like, what if it runs out and then I can't have it looking consistent in my journal? Like I can't do that.
No, I'm definitely that way inclined as well. I have a little drawer that's just filled with my InkJoys because if that one runs out, instantly is replaced. It's not that kind of thing where I'm going to run out and then have to sit there for 5 to 7 business days waiting for my new pen to arrive, because like you mentioned, I do enjoy that consistency in my journal. I like it when all of it looks matchy-matchy in terms of, titles and decoration and headers and all of that, but also just my general writing. I don't love it when, for some reason, you have to change pen halfway through a list and then that weight changes or the depth of the black changes, and it's like super obvious because it's this like block of individual entries that's in this like thick, gorgeous, dark, deep black, and then charcoal gray and a slightly finer line weight. I'm like, it's a no from me.
Yeah, you definitely can't have that. Well, one of my favorites, complete opposite to kind of where you are. Like my first love has always been the Uniball Signo DX, specifically the 0.38 millimeter. That's a nice fine point pen. I know something that you just mentioned from yours of having an issue with skipping with pens, and I think it's really important not to have that, especially when you're writing with something. I have never ever, and this is a rare thing to say, ever had this pen skip on me. It has been the most reliable pen I have ever used. And this comes after probably 4 or 5 years of trying a bunch of different pens. I was a big Muji boy back in the day, like those like semi-transparent pens from Muji with all the different sizes. But I'll tell you, I didn't know the importance of like the millimeter size of a pen, because most pens I don't feel like really come forward with that right off the bat. At least the pens I used to buy. I have no idea what some of those other pens were, but I think it was like this one specifically. I was like, oh, specifically the 0.38 millimeter, because I was trying to find those like really nice needlepoint pens. I love the thin lines. I think that's why I love like extra fine fountain pens so much. I don't know, something about that aesthetic of like writing on a page and it being nice and thin. I also do like the sound and a little bit of that scratchiness on my page. It's like feedback for me. I know some people don't love that and they hate it, and their skin crawls whenever they get the scratchiness, but I love it because it's like the same thing as like a mechanical keyboard. Like hearing yourself type is very therapeutic to me, right? And hearing myself write makes me feel that I'm doing something, right? I think that's why I love it so much and why it's been so great. And so what I loved about this is I think I got maybe like a 5-pack to begin with. And then after I knew that I loved it, and this was also when I was going into work. So you also, that's the other thing too, I guess you have to have extra because you may lose your pen, right? Like you might lose it. I was buying like 10, 12, 15 packs of these, like a whole bunch of them. I have a whole like section back here that's just filled with brand new pens that are just waiting to be used. And then now I don't use them as much, at least for like normal writing instead of my bullet journal, because I use fountain pens so often. But this one stays on my desk, as well as my other second favorite that is not a fountain pen. And they just are easy. Like you said, they grab, I write with it. I know I can rely on it. No smudging, none of that. Super fast drying ink. Again, as a lefty, it's great. And because it's so fine point as well, it drives even faster, right? I don't have to wait or anything else like that. Because for me in my bullet journal, especially again, when I was at work, taking notes in a meeting, closing that, going to a different meeting room, I hated like opening that back up and then seeing like the carbon copy on the opposite page if I didn't get enough time for that ink to dry. So this has just been a really fantastic one for me. And I just love the way that it looks.
Yeah, I think that part of the reason why I kind of steer clear of those finer point pens is that I'm just quite heavy-handed. So I feel like I'm just like making track lines in my journal, like kind of a thing, like you're trying to gut the notebook. Not really what I'm trying to do, but because I apply as much pressure as I do, if it is finer, you get, extra pressure, force over area, yada yada type deal, which means that on the reverse side of the page, sometimes you can see that ridging, which I don't necessarily dislike, but not in my journal. Like if it was just a kind of notes book where I'm just, black pen in the notebook, writing things down, flipping over and having that kind of like, it's almost braille, but like definitely not braille, but it's that ridged kind of feeling. It feels very satisfying. It's like, oh, look at all the notes I took. Look at all the work I did here. But outside of that, I don't love that. I don't love having ridging in my notebook at all. So I kind of steer clear of those really fine point ones, especially the fine point ones that are a ballpoint, because then they hold up better to my ham handedness, which means that then I do apply more pressure, which means I get more of the ridging, as opposed to like a fine liner, same nib size or whatnot, where if you apply that much pressure, you end up with like a deformed or bent or blunt or like literally like twisted nib kind of, jutting out the side of the pen, just reminding you of the sin that was your ham-fistedness.
Yeah, or just a not existent felt tip, because especially for like the micron pens and the really thin ones like that, yeah, you put any amount of pressure on that and it pops up inside of there to never be seen again. And it's very sad. Yeah, I agree with you. This pen on certain types of paper definitely does that, especially on like the earlier Leuchtturms, whatever that was, 70-pound paper or whatever it was, kind of the OG ones, all the time. You could feel it through there. And I'm not doing any type of art really inside of my journal, but if you are the type of person that does art or uses anything like that, you're absolutely right. You could get like kind of almost like a relief kind of on the other side of there, right? Or something that has happened to me, especially with really fine points. None of the ones that I'm talking about today. I remember one time I was in New York and there's this very famous stationery store there, and I totally forget the name of it. It starts with a Y. And I remember finding an even finer point than 0.38. And I don't know where I have it. It might be like Juice Up or something like that. I forget which brand it was. I have never written with more of a fine point pen. I was so excited for it. I was like, yes, even finer than what I'm already using. And I used it and it was too fine point for me, because it was really bad paper. It can actually rip through your paper. Like there is a point where your needle point pen is like a needle and can go through there. Or if you do like draw a lot of lines or circles, I've had that happen too, actually with a lot of this pen specifically because it's fine point. If you like really draw in a circle and then go to the other side and you draw something over top, it can kind of rip. So I think it's very much finding the tool for what you're trying to do. If you're just writing in a notebook, regardless of the type of paper, it's great. But if you tend to go a little bit harder with it, depending, again, you start to learn that over time, right? Like nothing that I would have ever thought about, like, oh, I write with more pressure with my pen inside of my notebook for whatever reason that might be. It's kind of the opposite for people who don't look like they're just gliding across the page as they write. I'm like, who are you? Because not me. I'm trying to etch into stone. I'm making sure that lettering is getting on my page. It's just one of those things where I love the feedback. And so regardless of the pen I'm using, I'm probably in the same spot. I guess with certain fountain pens like flex nibs and things like that, if you press too hard, then you're getting the thicker lines. And if that's not what you're trying to go for, it's like a whole other thing. But this is definitely something that I've been a fan of. I think it's a great way to go.
Yeah, I find that I do use a finer nib, but just not for writing. Like the majority of the pens that we're looking at today, at least from me, is for writing or for some other kind of like function that I use quite a lot when I'm doing my journaling and planning and that kind of such thing. But when it comes to like drawing and such, then a 0.2 is really great. A 0.1, I'm pretty sure that my friend Monica writes in like a 0.05 or something ludicrous, but her handwriting is so gorgeous and it looks so good with the fine nib. I'm just like, I wish that I had a lettering style that looked like the font that is her handwriting and how good it looks with the fine pen. It makes sense that she uses that. But for my regular everyday writing, where my letter forms are usually a little bit wider, they're not quite as like, skinny narrow type thing, because if you do have skinny narrow handwriting, then having a fine point pen can really help make it more readable. If you're going in with something like mine, which is a 0.7, and you've got letter forms that are quite compact and quite tight, everything kind of just ends up looking like black blobs, which like quality of black, love that, but readability, not so much.
All right. Well, what about your next pen? You're talking about your first one, that InkJoy, loving that so much. What's your next one that you are a secondary fan of?
So the second one kind of came out of necessity because the notebooks that I typically like to use, despite their claims, the paper is different. At least it behaves differently with my InkJoy. It got to a point where my InkJoy was causing me some grief. It was smudging and such. I'm not going to give up on it. I still love it. It is my baby. Love this pen. But I was finding that given the smudging that I was getting in my everyday journal, that was not sparking joy. With as much as I needed to write and the speed with which I want to be able to write it, I didn't want to sit there and like write a line out and wait and wait and let it dry. So I figured, okay, it's time to explore something new. It's time to find something else that you can use in here that maybe is going to be a little bit more friendly to work with. Part of the change I did was go from a 0.7 to a 0.5, so slightly thinner. And now as I've kind of gotten used to it, I'm like, oh, is this my new happy place or whatnot? The pen is at least my happy place. That's the Zebra Sarasa MarkON. I love it. I don't use it for the kind of, I don't know, claim on the packaging or like the kind of main use that most people have it for, which is the idea that you can write with it, let it dry, and then go over the top of it with the mild liner. So it's the idea that it won't smudge when you highlight something over the top. And I know that that is something that's really, really valuable for a lot of people. I don't highlight over the top of my writing pretty much ever, unless I have done some poor prior planning and stuffed something up. I'm usually the kind of person who will highlight first and then write over the top, but I have found that it's dry time and the like smudging that I thus don't get given the improved dry time is a lot nicer. So this is another one that I've gone and like stocked up on and got a little drawer section just filled with the Zebra Sarasa MarkOns because they are definitely a new favorite for me.
Yeah, well, I'll just go ahead and say that's also my second favorite as well as this one because I've also, and again, we did not talk about this before. We just said pick 4 pens that you love and you come up with. So all of the reasons that you said, and actually for the reason you said you don't use it is because I love my mild liners very much and utilizing them and color coding. And that was one of my biggest things that I despised with other pens. Actually, the Uniball one works well too because it's quick dry, and I think that's a really big part of archival or waterproof, all those things. But I love it for that.
Yeah, the InkJoy is not waterproof even in the slightest. It will smudge the bish up if you try and highlight over this one. It's okay, still love it, but not for highlighting if you're doing that second.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than like trying to think about the space you need to use a highlighter to then write over top of that highlighter. I think that was like when I got so excited when Zebra was, telling us about like this new pen that they were coming out because that was a really big customer issue that they were seeing. Is like, okay, we love your highlighters and your mild liners. We do not love that I can't use them with most of my pens, or you have to think about it ahead of time. So this has also been one of mine too. And because it is a 0.5, like you said, I'm kind of like, okay, sometimes I like to write a little bit thicker. And sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes I'm not even looking. I just know where my pens are and my little pen holder next to me, and I grab it and I can start writing with it. And it's never a problem too. I've had a few issues with like skipping and things like that, but I really think it's more about the paper sometimes than it is the pen itself. I'm sure other people have had this too, where like you're writing normal and like all of a sudden there's like a spot on your page that doesn't take ink. And I'll be like, wait a second. Oh, maybe, okay. And this is weird because this doesn't usually happen. And I'll go over it again. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I'll test my pen on like another piece of paper without any issue whatsoever. And I'm like, something is not right here. Like, what is going on? And so a lot of the times where I think that it's the pen that's having an issue, I like double check, and sometimes it's the paper. So like this is another one, super reliable. I love the way it holds. I even like the design. I like the little kind of graph paper look to it. It kind of fits inside of like what I'm doing. I'm writing in a notebook. I can rely on it. It's an easy go-to, and you can buy a multi-pack of these and they're not super expensive. And I'd say the same thing about the other one too. Like my first 2 picks are not very expensive picks. These you can buy anywhere. The other ones go up in price a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people know the direction I'll be going from my last 2 picks, but these definitely are like easy, accessible by everyone, and just love them so much. So I'm 100% there with you. Is there anything that you don't love about it? I know we're like gushing over the things that we do love, but like anything that you're not a fan of this pen?
I think if anything, it would just be how long it lasts given how much I write. Like I'm kind of sitting here looking at my one currently and like, oh yeah, no, don't have the transparency on the barrel, but if you hold it up to the light, you can see through the grip that ink is running out.
It's time to pull out the next one. Do you ever let your pen just run all the way out? Or are you like pretty close and you're like, go ahead and get rid of this because, like, just in case I'm going somewhere, I need to have a full pen. Do you ever think that far in advance?
I typically, if I'm traveling, I will check and see if it has enough ink to kind of last me through. That's usually not the problem. The problem I find is that because I write as much as I do, I go through quite a few pages oftentimes, which means that once you flip over and start writing with it, you don't have any reference of when the ink was more plentiful or like fuller or whatnot. So I can kind of trick myself into thinking like, oh yes, this is the normal amount of ink. Everything is fine. We're just jotting down what we need to do and such and getting on with our day. And then it gets to that point where it's like, no, 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 bottom of the barrel, dead, kind of a thing. I'm like, all right, now I'll change out for the new pen. And then when we have the full amount of ink, it's like, oh, that's what you're supposed to look like. And now my lines don't have consistency. Now my list doesn't have consistency. And now I'm pissed. Not pissed enough to go back over everything I just wrote, but still, at least I know that within half a week I'll be off that page and I won't have to look at it anymore. But in the moment, very upset.
Yeah. Let's not piss off Jess about these line widths and things like that. Yeah, I think a lot of the times having the ability to see how much ink is left is really great. I think with like fountain pens as well is something that I really like because that's one of those things that if you're out and about and you don't have your ink filled, like you're not replacing that. And actually, this is like the pen recently that I'm like grabbing if I go into work or somewhere where I take pens. I kind of have a backup. I have a regular ink pen and I have a regular pencil as well, along with my fountain pens that I take, just because, again, I know that I can rely on these. I know that they have ink in them. They're not going to run out anytime in the near future, and I'm good to go. And I can use them with anything, highlighters and whatnot, which is something that we've now mentioned is actually a really important part, especially if you do highlight things. If you're in school or college, right, or you are a teacher or you're in a profession where you are highlighting a lot, having a pen that you can use, kind of anything over top, is really important. And it's not something again that you usually think about. The worst thing is when you do take that one home and you're like, I'm so excited, I love this pen, and then you take the highlighter over it and it smudges and then your highlighter gets dirty on the end and it's a mess and you're just so sad because you're like, now this looks like poopy on my page and I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, no, I think that your point about the idea of not necessarily knowing how much space you need to highlight for as well, because if you know the amount of space, it's cool. You slap the color down first, you write over the top of it, easy. But if it's just, a particular phrase you're trying to highlight or, a header or something, and you're just not sure what the kind of width of that is going to be, that's where the biggest issues kind of lie. To the extent where previously when I was using pens or exclusively using pens that weren't very water resistant would give the whole kind of like muddied effect if you highlighted over the top. I would just kind of structure any of my headers, which is usually where I was doing the highlight, so that then each box in the doc grid got one letter. So rather than writing in my regular kind of, width of writing or whatnot, regular handwriting, I would just have it structured so that it's like, I know it's going to be one box per letter. So this is how many letters, this is how many boxes I need to highlight and do it that way. But that's not necessarily the effect everybody's going for. Like, yes, it's a solution, but a better solution is a pen that doesn't do the smudging.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an important part. Again, you don't really think about it. And that's when we turn into small like pen snobs. But I don't think it's anything like terrible though. Like I love when you're in a meeting or you're meeting other people and you're like, "Oh, can I borrow a pen?" and someone like takes a moment because they have to think about the pen that they're about to lend you. When I was in the office all the time, I always had a lend pen section of my pen holder because I was like, you're not getting any of my good ones, because there were a few times I remember, because I held these, like so precious in my life. I was like, I spent like a decent amount on these, like the bulk one that I did. I remember writing down in my notebook who I lent a pen to because I wanted my damn pen back. Like it's one thing if I was giving you like a crappy one or the one that's just in like the stationery closet at work or whatever, I don't care. But if I'm giving you something that I deem precious, I will damn well make sure I get my pen back. So I was the guy that like literally like on my desk, like I had a cup that I had all the blend pens on, because sometimes people will just like walk by your desk and take a pen off your desk, right? But all my good ones I put inside of my drawer because I was like, you hopefully aren't going to be going through my drawers for these pens. So if you just take a Len pen off the top, like I'm not worried about you.
Yeah, it's like a library catalog of your pens to be like, yes, the borrower's list or something. End up with little barcodes on all your pens so that you can like scan them out.
I'm not gonna lie to you. If I was doing that with fountain pens, 100%. I was just talking to my friend at work the other day, and she was asking me, she's like, "I think I'm ready to get into fountain pens. Like, what do you like? What do you think's best for me?" And we got talking about it, and I was like, I have a lot of fountain pens that like I could just give you or like lend to you if you wanted to. She's like, "What do you mean lend?" I'm like, "Well, we go into the office once a month. Like, I have enough fountain pens that I'm not going to miss like certain ones. Like, if I don't get it back, but like I'm not going to give her like a really expensive one, but like try it out, see if you like it before you buy. Like it's essentially a stationery store inside of my life right now. So it's like instead of going into a pen store and testing it there, let me just lend you one for the month. I'll put it on my library card of Lens pens, and I'll get it back the next time that we meet. You can tell me what you think about it. It's just one of those things where like it does make a really big difference, I think, on like what you have, what you're letting people borrow. But I mean, my introduction to fountain pens was just someone let me borrow one. It was just like pre-filled ones. I forget the brand name of the one that I had, but it was just someone was like, "Here, try it." It's like a $2-3 pen. It wasn't a huge big deal, but for me, it really started to make me feel a little bit more comfortable and confident moving in a fountain pen. So I'm super thankful when people do lend me pens or like let me use them, because you're like, "Ooh, I like the way this writes. What pen is that? Oh, I haven't tried that one before. Oh, let me give it a try. Oh, I'm going to go buy them. Here's the Amazon link. All right, it'll be at my house tonight." Like, I love those types of conversations. Maybe it's just me that has those type of conversations with people, but like I've done that so many times where I'm like, "This is a great pen. It'll be at my house by 5 p.m."
No, I do definitely think that there is benefit in doing an ooch or like, a trial run with pens, especially ones that are a little bit pricier. And if you've got somebody who's, close to you who's willing to let you either like borrow it or just test it out or something like that, it can be a very good way to get a feel for whether it works for you. If you are borrowing somebody's pen though, you damn well better give that thing back, right? You're not gonna have Mark coming like at your door like, "Please, where's my pen? I lent this to you, but like I need it back," right? It'll be him, it'll be whoever like else lent it to you, because these things are precious. We're only just like a little particular about it. I stole your second one though, Mark. So what would be your third most favorite pen?
It's good to be on the same plane. So I'm going to go into fountain pen territory now, because this is actually, it's funny. This is actually the timeline of my life, from like going into pens, except for the MarkON, because it did come out after I started collecting my fountain pens. But this is very exciting. So my very first fountain pen, and the one I actually recommend for everyone, is the Lamy, whether it's the Lamy Safari or the All Star. So like my very first fountain pen was this one right here. This was a gift to me from my sister-in-law for Christmas one year. I had never tried a fountain pen before, ever in my life. Like I've tried the one that, like you said, at work, my friend let me kind of borrow the, one that's already filled up, but I didn't know anything about cartridges, converters, none of this kind of stuff. But this pen has been so great because I think it's a great entry level pen for a lot of individuals, especially when you are trying to find, colors that you like, because they come in so many different fun colors and materials. The All Star one I have is like a aluminum one. It was a special edition one, but you can find them just, I call them like my snack pens. They're really just like, they're always around in any type of color. They're made out of like plastic or like a resin or something like that. And they come in every color of the rainbow. And I love them so much. And it really is just a great way to get into it. I think they come usually with a few cartridges that you just pop into the back of the pen and you use it till it's gone. Or you can buy the converter so you can suck up fountain pen ink and use it. It's very easy. And I was just talking, this is actually the pen that I was recommending to my friend at work who was trying to get into fountain pens. And the reason was also that with these pens, they come with a nib and you can buy them, whatever you want, but you can actually buy replacement nibs or other sizes. And they're really easy to change out because you just literally take this part and you pull it off, which is very scary. Don't get me wrong. And you just pop on the other one and you've gone from having like a medium or a larger one to like an extra fine, which is what I replaced mine with when I very first got it, because the mediums for me were just too thick. And I was like, no, I can't go from like a 0.38 millimeter to like a medium. So I had to get the extra fine. They do have a little ink window in it. So when we talk about features of pens, I guess something that I'm not usually thinking about is having that ink window. And the grips are always really nice. They're kind of already kind of made for your hand to fit in, whether you're left or right handed, it doesn't matter. So if you're nervous about like how to hold a fountain pen, if there aren't grips, it already exists. So you literally just put it in your hand and you know it's wrong because it feels weird in your hand. And like I said, they're very budget friendly depending on what you're looking for. And you can really start to customize them and kind of go with them. And Lami's been around for a very long time. They're definitely a brand that is established. They're not like just some new person off the street. So the quality is always very nice. And like I said, you can get them usually pretty inexpensively, in some cases for $10-15, especially when you're getting them on sale or like a discount code or whatever. And I just think that they're everyone's best friend.
No, I think that accessibility is a big thing when it comes to pens, and knowing that I can order, my first two favorites very easily and get them sent to my house. That's always something that is very pleasing to know. With the Lamy?
Lamy.
Lamy. I was like, Lamy? The Lamy pen.
Well, that's the thing with some of these is like the same thing with Loistrom. Like I didn't know how to say that until I actually was like, I need to watch a video to see how someone actually says it, because I was saying like Lecturum and like other things like that, and you listen, it's like Loistrom. So Lamy is what all the professionals say. So some people say Lammy because that's the way it looks, but Lamy is how I've been told it's.
Yeah, and I'm over here calling it Lamy, but mainly because I don't think that it would be for me, mainly because of that like pen grip that you said was like, technically speaking, yes, a good feature, one that helps you hold your pen, quote, correctly. I don't hold my pen correctly. I don't want to be told what to do. I'm a rebel, right? I'm not going to let my pen dictate how I'm going to hold it. So most of the time, my preferred barrel type is just going to be round, because then I can have my incorrect grip and still have it be comfortable enough.
I totally forgot about that. That's right. You write very odd. Yeah, like a little Kremlin, like how you write your stuff.
Yeah, no, I have, instead of resting the pen on my middle finger, I rest it on my ring finger, second middle finger. What is this one called?
Your index finger.
No, not your index finger. That would be hard as. How do you rest your pen on your index finger and get any kind of like security? I'm the kind of person who puts my middle and index finger on the top of the pen and rests the pen like barrel on the one next to your pinky finger.
Your index finger.
No, your index finger is your pointer finger.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Isn't it? I don't know.
I always called it the pointer finger. I thought this was the index. Maybe not.
The Wiggles say, "Where is pointer? Here I am," and then that's the first one. And then where is tall boy, because they don't want to say like the rude finger or whatever. Yeah. And then it's Ringo, and then it's pinky. I don't think they do anything for the thumb though. This is like a throwback to like 4-year-old Jess though. So
well, that makes sense because you write like a 4-year-old usually does before they learn how to hold their pen correctly.
At least it's more legible than a 4-year-old, at least most of the time. But because of that, because I have a slightly different way to hold my pen, it means that any of those kind of grips that are supposed to help you hold it in a particular traditional whatever way, they usually end up causing me more discomfort when I use those types of pens.
No, it's funny you say that. So yeah, then Lamy isn't for you. If you don't write like a normal human being, then yeah, this is not going to be right, because I'm just looking through all of mine and realizing they all have this regardless of the type. So that's actually a really good point to make about it, because yeah, that's a really great feature, I think. But you're absolutely right. If I try to write like this, it actually feels weird because the pen kind of rests almost on your fingernail, it feels like, right? Like instead of where I have a permanent crease inside of my finger from how I hold mine.
I think I do end up resting it on my knuckle for that ring finger or whatnot, and that does mean that I have a kind of like pronounced pad, I guess, on that knuckle, because over time I've caused trauma to the finger, so now it's just like built itself this like padding to safeguard it from my ham-fisted pen holding. But it is curious to see how people hold their pens. I'm also always very curious to see how people hold chopsticks. That one's always one that I'm quite fascinated by. Completely not related to the topic at hand, but still a curiosity point.
Yeah, because when you hold chopsticks, you're holding it similar to how you hold a pencil. So for you, you're holding it like, again, a little gremlin grip on your sushi.
Yeah, exactly. I think I end up holding it so that then one of the chopsticks rests on the ring finger and the other one rests on the middle finger. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. I don't have chopsticks, so I'm like trying to do chopsticks with my pens. Not working.
Because I've always held it similar to how I hold a pen. So you are holding chopsticks I guess I wonder if that's how it's done. Like people that, oh, well, Planner Pals, let us know now that you've uncovered this oddity in the world. I never really put two and two together about like using chopsticks similar to how you write. So you're doing it similar to how you write. So I don't even know. No wonder. Do you have issues? Do you have to use like a little supporter when you're using chopsticks?
Do you have issues? Well, yes, thank you for calling it out, but no, I can hold chopsticks fine, or at least like I can use chopsticks fine. I don't have to have like, any kind of assistive grip or anything with the chopsticks. Vogel uses an assistive grip because despite our best efforts to teach him, he's very stubborn in a I don't know. I'm like, that's a defeatist mindset. How dare you?
Yeah,
But
we don't do that. Does he have the little clips that go on the back that spring it, or do you use the paper from the chopsticks to create that?
no, we have a little spaceman. We call it his spaceman. It's got, the little kind of rubber feet that then you can slide the chopsticks into
Hmm.
and it holds it at that kind of
Yeah.
open A
Hmm.
shape or whatnot. And you just press against it to get them to close.
Oh my God. I love that you have to take that with you when you go out to eat somewhere. You're like, do you have the spaceman? Nope. Go back inside and get it out of the drawer. I need my spaceman.
It's literally that. Actually, usually we get to Yamcha and he goes, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "Did you forget your spaceman?" He looks very dejected, like, "Yeah." I'm like, "They have forks. We'll just ask them for a fork."
Jess, you're his wife now, so that's like a part of your wifely duty is to always make sure the spaceman is in your purse or pocket. I'm sorry, this happens.
I know. I'm just gonna get another one and keep it in the car because we already have at this like we have those telescopic metal straws or whatnot because he is like adamantly against paper straws, which like fair. I get it. I don't like them, but I'll use them. He can't. I can understand sometimes like with those kind of tactile things, like using a wooden spoon is absolutely hideous. And now I'm thinking I should probably get a car spoon so that then if I go somewhere that has a wooden spoon, at least I have a spoon.
You don't think about these things until you say it out loud, and the thought of eating anything with a wooden spoon just made my like it got me chills like thinking about it. I'm with him on the paper straw, not to go on this side tangent, but I hate nothing more than drinking out of a paper straw and then it like going limp as you're drinking from it. It is, I hate it. I can't because I love my drinks, I love my straws, and I love my ice. Like if I can't have the best experience when drinking my fountain soda, then I'm not a happy boy. I'll just take the cap off. I'd rather not use a straw than use a paper straw.
I just like to think of it as an incentive to drink my drink faster. It's like, we're not going to let it get to the pulpy grossness because you're just going to drink this quick enough that it's not a problem.
Or if you get as many refills as I get, it becomes a problem because then it's a lot of use. Anyway, let's get back to pen talk. What's your next one, Jess?
So, stepping away from my kind of writing favorites and into ones that I use for just other stuff, one would definitely have to be the Tombow dual brush markers. This is the pen set that I got, like, what? I think I was 2 weeks, if that, into my journaling journey, and I had seen them online. I'm like, oh, FOMO's here. Like, maybe I should get these, but I'll get the mild liners first. Got the mild liners, they were fine. Like, I was excited to get them because I hadn't gotten them before, so there's a novelty and a newness. But I didn't love that the chisel wasn't the full width of the dot grids. I'm like, well, hey, I've seen people use these Tombow dual brush markers to get a line that is the full width of the dot grid. I'll get those. But of course, I am me, so I'm like, well, we could start with just like one pack of them to do the ooch, give it a test run or whatnot. Nah, I got the full set all at once, which like shipping from the US, like US Amazon, to the ass end of the world where I live, because they just did not really have them accessible down here. That cost a bit, but that's fine. That's past Jess's problem. Current Jess loves her set of Tombows, though. It is definitely one of my most used. Like, pretty much any journal setup I do is going to feature a Tombow in some way, shape, or form. Very rarely will I use something else just because I've, over the years collected more pens that have the same kind of like brush tip or bullet tip or whatnot. But I do love the fact that, like the name suggests, it is dual ended. So you've got your brush tip, you've got your bullet tip so that you can do different line styles or whatnot. My main use for these was previously coloring in. So when I did a lot of decoration styles that did require me to draw stuff, I would color in with the Tombows. Nowadays, it's mainly for second line highlights more than anything else. And a second line highlight is just a great way to, one, add some color to your page, which two, is also some visual interest, but also three, increases like readability of things. I find that with a second line highlight on a list, it just makes the list just more user-friendly, almost. You can see separate entries very easily, and even if one entry takes up 2 lines, it still is increasing the readability for me. I also appreciate that because it is a water-based marker, and at least in the journals that I'm using and with the way I use it, if you go over it multiple times, it will darken that section, which is a really nice thing for when you're trying to make tables, or use the Alistair method, because you can do horizontal rows to say, like, individual entries, but then you can also highlight alternate columns, so that means that any time that it's gone over twice, that part will be a little bit darker. So it not only means that like you can make gingham patterns and whatever in your journal if you want to, but you can also get the functionality of being able to very easily read your tables because you have those darkened up column sections or whatnot. I love them a lot.
No, everything you were saying, it's funny. I never really think about that, about those pens. First of all, I don't have the entire collection, but I have a lot. And I only ever use the brush side. And I mostly use it for exactly like you said, that second line underlining or like adding little pops of color, like drop shadows and things like that. Sometimes I will use it for like really big lettering, especially like brush lettering if I'm trying to be fancy about it. But I have a hard time because the brush is so thick and I have zero control when I try to do anything with a really thick brush, right? It's just like, okay, now that's half the page and it says to do day, whatever it is. But I really did like it. And when you mentioned about it being water based, I love it for that reason too. I personally, watercolor is like my favorite paint medium to work with, but because of that reason, I love that it can be very light. I love that you can go over it a few times. One of my favorite things that I ever learned to do with Tombows, because they are water based, was actually to add like a watercolor feature to a page by using like a piece of like saran wrap or a plastic baggie or any type of plastic. And you kind of go over top of it with your Tombow, and then you can add a little bit of water to it and then flip it upside down on your page and get this really cool look. And it's safe for your notebook because it's Tombow. It's the same thing. Obviously, know your paper, and if you can add a little bit of water to it if you want. But I know people also blend colors that way. I can't. Touching tips together with two different markers bothers me a lot. The same thing with the highlighters, but to each their own. And it's just one of those things where I feel like they can be very versatile. You can do a lot with them. I've had mine literally since I started journaling, and I don't use them all the time. I've definitely collected other things instead, but I know that they're super reliable. I probably need to get another black one because I actually used it the other day and it was starting to like, I don't know the right word, but like fray on the end or kind of like ghost a little, I don't know the right word that I'm thinking of here. Feather, that's the word that I'm looking for. And it wasn't a nice crisp line. And I was like, oh gosh, all right. Like, don't use that brush pen again because it's not the right thing, but it's not out of ink, I don't know. But I definitely think that all of your reasons are the right reasons to really love them. I don't have, like I said, I've always wanted the whole collections, but I know that I'm not going to use them. So I just kind of stopped collecting after a while.
No, that's very fair. And I think that there is a lot of merit to not getting the full set, especially if you don't think you're going to use all of the colors. Like there are a chunk of the ones that are in there that they are my first version of that pen. Like I've had that since I first got it back in, like 2017, 2016, actually, like, yeah, end of 2016 or whatnot. So I've had those pens for a while, coming up like 10 almost years or whatnot. And some of them I just haven't used enough to have run out of the ink in them. Whereas other ones like N95 or N89 or 990. Those ones I have multiples of. I have like a back stock of them. I've got my main kind of carry case that has all of the like individual ones done in the rainbow order like I like them. And then the like backlog of pens that is like, when that runs out, because it will, because you use it enough, here it is. So then at least if I'm doing, some kind of setup, I'm in the middle of the month and then my N89, precious baby, runs out or whatnot, I know I have backups of those. I also appreciate that these are a pen that I can actually get in New Zealand now. They are popular enough that they are actually a bit more like locally available. So I can just jump down to the local kind of craft store and grab those. It is only one craft store. One craft store has them near me, and that's okay, because at least it means they're accessible. In terms of the blending thing though, I do love that you can do blending with those. I don't blend mine by touching the nibs together. I'm not doing like chameleon pen work out here, but I do like that because of the kind of like water-based nature of it or whatnot, you can put down the lightest color first and then like build up layers of it just with the same pen to make it a little darker and have a gradient done that way. Or you could do kind of a multicolored gradient. So like slap down a yellow and then an orange and then a red or whatever and kind of like blend those together either with a little bit of water or with the colorless blender pen or whatnot, add some kind of visual interest. In terms of doing lettering with them, I also don't use the brush nib for like brush lettering because it's one of those skills that I kept saying like, oh, I really need to practice that. I really should. I was like shoulding all over myself. I'm like, I really should practice this because it's something that bullet journalers just do. Never got around to it. Nowadays, I just like don't care. I'm like, I'm not going to practice lettering like that. I would rather just find a nice font online, print it off on sticker paper, and stick it into my notebook because I ain't got time to learn how to letter. Like, it's just not something that I actually feel like I'm going to invest the time, effort, and energy into. But I did always love seeing people do lettering with the brush nib. What I would be more likely to do, though, if I was going to do lettering with them, outside of occasionally dabbling in gradient lettering, which was kind of fun, I would just use the bullet nib. And then this is where I would get out my 0.38 pen. Like, my one use that I had for my 0.38 pen is doing the fine lining around the outside of it, because it was that really thin line that was sufficient to kind of make it pop. And then you could use a different Tombow, usually a gray one, to add a little drop shadow or whatnot, and then maybe add a little bit of like a white highlight to it or something, depending on which nib you used. If you use the bullet nib, then I'm probably not going to go in and add a white highlight to it, because it's like white out. You just white out your lettering or something. But if it was the brush nib and I had done some kind of like gradient through it, put the drop shadow in, done that kind of fine lining or whatnot, adding a little white highlight to make it look a little three-dimensional was kind of fun. So there was a period where that was the type of journaling I was doing. It was really, really fun for using in that way. Nowadays, it's just like, hey, second line highlight, my baby, I love you.
Yeah, I remember way back in the day too, always wanting to. The people that do the big brush lettering is beautiful. I remember a lot of like the other art accounts would have people like do classes. There's some people that have like whole courses on how to do the brush lettering, and I love them for that. I've definitely tried it, and there's something very fun about like a bouncy brush letter. You know, like that's always what you see. And I tried, and it's just not me. I want it to be me. I want it to look nice. I did a live recently, and I was talking about lettering. I was like, you know what? I should just do a lettering video on like, as an average everyday human that's not like a big bouncy brush letter, like how do you do it though? Like how could you maybe do that? Or like calligraphy or things like that. It's like a total person that just kind of learned it on my own. And people are like, I would love that video. Like I would totally do that. And I was like, okay, maybe I should follow through. So it's on my to-do list of things to do, because there's different types of brushes too. Like Tombow makes one, I remember everyone, it was like a really hard tip brush pen, and that was one that a lot of people liked. Do you remember the name of it? I can't.
Yeah, no, that was the Tombow Furunosuke.
There you go, because I could never say it. So that's what exactly it. So like that was one that I really liked, because for me it was nicer with that harder brush tip. Again, I knew nothing about brush lettering, right? So I was like, they're all the same, and you find that and you're like, oh no, like this is next level, because I can get that look of that brush lettering, but it's not super thick. It's kind of thin actually, and looked really nice. So that's definitely one that I definitely say like versatile. It was great to have, worked out nicely. I don't know. I would say Tombow overall makes some really nice brush pens. If I'm comparing them to others, whether it's off brand, or I even thinking about like the Coleographs from Archer and Olive, like I feel like I've had more issues with those. I've never had an issue ever with Tombow. Like they've never gotten like weird or grimy or anything like that, where like I know some of my other coleographs like crystallized over, but like I've never had that happen with those, which makes me wonder like what's different about those versus the other if they're all water based. I don't know the difference.
Yeah, I have had one of my Tombows do the looks like it's growing tree
Yeah.
bits type of a deal.
Okay.
Like like you see the trees in the forest and they've got those kind of like fungi that grow out in like layers. It was kind of like that. I'm just like, ugh.
It always looked like crystal rock to me, like a geode, like it kind of just was like crystallizing over top. And I was like, is this safe? Can I still use it? I'm just going to throw it away. This is kind of gross.
I would, for those ones, like the ones that I had from Tombow, because I've only had it happen like maybe once or twice, and it was definitely like it didn't arrive like that. So I'm like, what did I do? Did I breathe on you wrong? Like, am I like, making you into a science experiment or whatnot? Calligraphs, though, I have had some of those arrive and be a little naff. Like, in the kind of like scale of my pen set, not sufficiently, but like enough that it was like you are doing you're doing a worse job than my Tombows are type of a deal or whatnot. But I did at least appreciate with the calligraphs you do get two brush nibs, so you get that finer one, which is a little bit less flexible, a little harder tip, which I find is just a little bit more beginner friendly when it comes to lettering. Like if you're using it for lettering specifically, the Tombows with the Tombow dual brush markers, with the nib being as large as it is a little bit more unruly. Typically speaking, to get your letter forms looking nice, you do just have to do bigger letter forms, which in an A5 journal, that's starting to take up a fair bit of space.
Yeah, you have to like really learn about like the angle and the pressure to try to get that. I mean, it's really like drawing with a brush, right? That's essentially what it is without dipping it in paint. So it is definitely one of those things where like if you are giving the time to it to learn how to brush with it, like props to you. Me and Jess are in the same boat here. We're underlining stuff real quick, adding a little fun, and then we're like, and let's move on to writing the rest of our notebook.
Yeah, one of my favorite ways to use Tombows decoratively, though, is just to take the nib and kind of press it down onto the page from the tip and making effectively like these little petals almost. Or you can make it as kind of little, I don't know, confetti lines or something like that. You can kind of add them to the start of a header and just be like pop kind of a thing. Those are kind of cute. That's not something I do a lot, but when I do it, it always feels very satisfying. Like, oh, very cute. But if you've used your Tombow sufficiently that the end is a little bit fluffy, a little frayed or whatnot, then you don't really have that kind of crisp point to it, which isn't as fun. When you mentioned the idea of like, oh, what do I do with these? Like, do I keep them because the ink is still good or whatnot? I was keeping mine because I don't like throwing things away that I still feel have a function or whatnot. I'm like, well, I can still use you to color in. I can still, do X, Y, Z with you, but I need one that has that really kind of like pointed nib. So I will get one with the pointed nib, bring that into my collection, and then I'll just have them both there. But then I just used the one with the pointed nib. So eventually, when I did my declutter, I'm like, look, girl, you're not using it. It's just taking up space. It's time to let it go. Thank you for serving your purpose. I appreciate you. Goodbye.
Yeah, 100%.
What would be your next one, though?
Yeah, so mine would be another fountain pen because, let me just tell you how hard this was. Because when we were, I mean, we didn't technically limit ourselves, but I know we could talk forever. Like I said, I would pull out every single pen that I own and be like, this is my favorite pen. But when I really think about like, what do I have a lot of and why, this was the next one. So TWSBI Ecos it's similar to the Lamis for me. You can get them in so many different colors. I actually think that the TWSBI pens are even more fountain pen newbie friendly than the Lamis because everything is built into this pen. So like after I had my very first Lamy, the TWSBI was the very first fountain pen that I bought on my own as like my next pen. And then it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, right? But what I love about it, and it's hard because I actually have two of them inked up currently because that's how much I love them. But essentially, like inside of the pen, you'll see this little piston here, and all you have to do is just turn it, and then that's down, and you put in your ink, and you turn it the other way, and it sucks it up, and like that's it. You don't have to take anything apart. You don't have to do very much. Cleaning it can be very easy. You just stick it in clean water, suck it up, spit it out somewhere else, and do that a few times, and you got a clean pen. But like they're just really great. And I love, again, like the personality. When I talk about fountain pens, you all see me get very excited. You probably hear it in my voice. But like fountain pens are just a really great way to like show off your personality and show off what you like and what you love. And I think with the TWSBIs, I think with the Lamis, because there are so many different versions and ways that you can use them, like I have some that have like really nice colors with like brass accents on them, right? The one that I gifted to Jess has like a really cool like iridescent look to it, right? You can get those too. Like it really is fantastic. And with a lot of these, when you're just using just the little piston fill here, you realize like it's not as intimidating as you think it is, right? Same thing on a price standpoint. They're a little bit more than the Lamis can be, especially when you get into like some specialty colors. But like just a transparent like yellow one, again, it could be like $25, like $30 for a pen that literally you will use forever. Like these are not, the ink runs out and you're like, well, throw it in the trash. No, that's why I also love fountain pens, because you never feel like you're ever not using something all the way, and then you refill it up later on if you want to. So because of how easy accessible they are, it's great. I think you'd actually even buy them off of Amazon now. Like that's how broad and out there they are. Like you can get them in really nice and easy ways. I don't necessarily know about like the variety on some of those sites, but you can go to like a regular pen store and get them, right? Like it's not like you have to go to like an exclusive pens place to like try to make this happen, or I'm not quite sure. You can always find them. And again, they come in so many different sizes, the nib sizes, depending on how you like to write. I have never done it, but if you really wanted to, like instead of like buying a whole new pen, but I don't know why you would do this, you could just do the same thing. You just buy the nib that's the right size and replace it out of your pens. Like there's a lot you can do with it. honestly, you can do that with like every fountain pen. I don't like to think about that because I love pens so much that I'm like, I'm going to have one pen in extra fine, and I'm going to have the other one in a fine point, and I'm going to have this one in medium and broad. And then I'm like, but I really like the color of this one. It's always a lot of fun. And I also really like the variety too. This is technically eco, but it's called the Diamond, what is it? 580 ALR. But this one's nice. It looks the same. This costs a little bit more, but it's because the details are a bit nicer. Like you've got like more of the aluminum. The other thing too, now that you've mentioned about the pen holders, it's just a regular circular holder here. So whether you have a gremlin grip or just a regular grip, you're good to go. This one, because it's a little bit nicer, has a little bit of actual like ridging on the metal, right? So like you can hold it and it's that good textile feel, but they look really cool. They come in a lot of different colors. And like I said, I think they're even more fountain pen friendly for newbies than the Lamis because you don't have to do anything. It's all right there out of the package.
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, as you were going through, which I'm going to keep calling it lamey, even though I know it's not the name, it's just lame. But I do think that at least where I'm based, I know that Lamy is more accessible, like you can actually get it in stores here. I don't know if you can get TWSBIs in store here. Which, I mean, no harm, no foul. I got a TWSBI, so it doesn't even matter. I don't need none. I'm good.
Don't
I got my one.
don't say that you don't need another one. Yes, you need another one. I think about it all the time because I'm like, you're never going to change the ink in the one that I gave you. I know that you're not going to. Even though I gave you the ink, even though I tell you how easy it is, I've sent you the videos, literally a one-on-one video on how to change the ink inside of your pen because that's how much I want you to do it and you're not. So at this point in my life, I'm thinking I just need to buy another one and send it to you. So you're forced to fill it with just black ink. You've had that for over a year, Jess. Like you've had
But
that.
it's got so much left.
Oh,
Like, look at it.
no.
So much ink.
But that's the thing is that if you were to, I guarantee if you were to literally turn that, no ink would even come out of the pen. That's more probably ink that's inside of the feed that it is there. Like you actually can't empty that pen because there's not even enough ink. There's more air in your pen than there is ink right now.
Yeah, there definitely is. I'm looking at it. I'm just like, oh, she thirsty.
It's time. And you know what? Just if you don't want to, you can actually just fill it with another color and then you get a really cool mix of color. But you need to fill that with a black ink next, no matter what you do, because I feel like if you fill it with a really nice black ink, you'll actually use it. I gave you carbon black. Don't let people tell you it's going to stain your pen. I literally have this blue in here, which will probably stain my pen. Carbon black won't. I'll tell you how to clean it out if you need to. But if you put that in that pen, I guarantee you'll use it more because it's a color that you actually use.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm wondering, like, oh yeah, if I just suck up the black ink and then just like gradually over time just increase how dark it is, eventually we'll get to the point where it is the black. But I really like TikTok Croc. It's really pretty. It's just I don't write in green ink.
Great color. Absolutely. I'm telling you, you'll love it. But it's really easy to do. Like I said, I've literally, Planner Pals, I literally just one night, I don't even know what time it was. It was AM for you. And you were like, how would I go about cleaning this out? And I literally got out of bed and I filmed something on my phone of like, here's all you have to do. Like, it's so easy. And that was like 6 months or so ago.
Yeah, no, the hyperfixation passed, and so then I'm just like, oh no, that's cool. I'll put that in the backlog of projects that I'll never get back to.
So yeah, you can tell that I'm like very like passionate about Jess actually using a fountain pen, but it's not even because I feel like oh, because I love it, you'll like it too. I just think that it's a really fun way to include more writing inside of your journal and your planners, or just writing on anything. I think that's a great thing too, just about like all the pens that we talked about today. Also, is that writing is such an important part of journaling, especially if you are an analog planner or you just like to take notes. It's not something that I appreciated as a young kid. As much as I love collecting pens and different things like that, right? I was just a collector at heart. I kind of look back now and think about that. I think when you find a pen that you really like, or a style or a brand, you start to play around with that and see that. And then you start to think a little bit more like, oh, what if I tried something else? Like, what if there is something else out there? I mean, for a long time, I did not think that there was anything else out there other than this like Uniball Signo. But when you do talk to other people or try it out yourself, you suddenly realize like there's a lot more fun to have in it. And so that's why, like, again, fountain pens have become my new thing, because I'm like, this is my personality and I can put any type of ink in here that I want to. And it's so fun. It definitely is something to get over if you're like, no, black ink in my notebook can't be different on every page, then maybe fountain pens aren't the thing for you, unless you're going to use one pen and one ink. But that's boring, right? I think that it depending on the kind of person that you are, you get to a point where you're like, I don't really care about that anymore. And it's a weird thing to say as a person who was like, I will only write with one pen in my notebook. And I have like 3 years worth of notebooks that are just like black, this pen, well, not this pen, because this one was newer, this pen for years. But then now, like flipping through my notebook, it is so much more fun. I'm like, oh, that was a cool color. Oh, crap, that one bled through the page. This one wasn't great. I hated that pen. It just creates a little bit more fun and excitement in your life.
No, I think that as somebody who is like pen enthusiast like yourself, that would be like kind of fun trip down memory lane. Like, oh, I remember when I got this one and I was really enthusiastic about it. And I like really loved the broad nib on this one. And this was really fun to letter with or whatnot. Whereas my kind of style of planning in terms of like looking back, I'm just like, oh yeah, remember when I used to draw everything? Oh, remember when I started first getting into washi tapes? Remember when I first started getting into stickers or whatnot? So I think that for the most part, because I don't have that same kind of like, I don't want to say like attachment to pens, because I'm not going to try and like insinuate that you're out here just like, my precious, like, this is the be all and end all of my journaling supplies.
I don't know. I am.
I mean, like, yeah, but I wasn't going to call it out.
No, you call it out. I literally added 2 more tiers to my pegboard behind me to put even more fountain pens out, because to me it's like they're almost like art. Like that was the whole idea in my like pegboard that I have in my space with the fountain pens out, is like they are beautiful to look at. I love writing with them, and it's like an art installation. This is basically how I sold it to my wife. I was like, I'm spending all this money because it's like an art installation. Like we have to have this. But I think it is just the really fun part. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd even go into like maker pens or anything else like that, because that's getting very, very niche, and in most cases very, very expensive. I wanted to be like approachable in here. And I know there's some people out there that are like, oh, I'm not paying $3 for an ink pen. Like that's ridiculous, right? And some people who think spending, $80 on like a fancier TWSBI is way too much. But like finding that space in between where you're like, oh, you know what, if you're going to invest in a pen that you're going to use all the time, you might as well really love it. Like that's what I think I love so much about pens as a whole when people are asking you, because it is so specific to like your identity sometimes and like who you are. And I love giving advice for things like this. And I think that when people see you using certain pens or they ask you about it, you can give that advice and like introduce someone to something new, even if it is just like the Sarasa, MarkON versus like the Bic that they're using right now.
Each to their own. Ooh. No, I do think that also it's quite interesting to see how your pen preferences will kind of change over time. Like when I first started, I was using, I'm pretty sure I was using a Creative Memories fine liner because it was the only thing that I had that looked semi-similar to what I was seeing online, because I'm like, oh, I want to do it that way. Like I want to have a fine liner pen. Not that fine liner pens actually work for me, but eventually I graduated from that to actually buying my own one, and I'm pretty sure I was using like the Sharpie fine point fine liner type thing, because I was like, oh, the quality of black on this is better than the one I was using, because the one I was using was like old. It had seen some things. And eventually it was like, okay, well, that one, I don't really love that when I go over it with an eraser, it's kind of gray. So I graduated to the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, because that was looking a little bit better and it had different line weights and all of that kind of thing. So that was kind of nice. And eventually I just came to the realization, like, no, if you're going to do everyday writing, you prefer a ballpoint. We just need to find a pen that has a ballpoint.
Yeah. And it's crazy too when you go down that route, because right now I just put in like a massive stationery order and it got a lot of new pens and inks, and I was going through, because even like Lamy, for instance, has ballpoint pens instead of fountain pens. And so it's like one of those things where I never even look at the ballpoint pens anymore because I'm like, who wants that? But you can get really nice ballpoint pens. Like you can get like gold and silver, like plated and platinum and everything else, but as a ballpoint versus a fountain pen. And it's just one of those things, I guess, where you're investing in what you're doing every single day. So you might as well have fun with it, And like I said, I mean, maybe you're not buying 5 $100 pens to write with all the time, but you're going to be a little precious about the one you did spend that money on. But if you use it every single day, or you have it in like a spot where, you sit down and you do your bills or do whatever, I'm just a firm believer that like enjoying what you're writing and how you're writing is such like a really enjoyable part of writing. Like I hated writing when I was younger, and now I do it every single day. Like most people be like, no, I'm just going to type now instead. Like I don't need to write with my hands. But like when you really enjoy it and you find something you love, it's like, this is cool. And then people just know to come to you. And for me, it's a really good feeling when someone's like, I know that you really like pens. I have a few questions. And I'm like, and let's talk about it. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that enjoyment is a big part. And my next pick is is definitely an enjoyment-based one. That one being dot markers. Like, and we talked about it last time or like previously. Jess was a hater. She was like, why do you need a dot marker? I can draw a circle. I have Tombows. Like, I have the ability, especially with something that size. If it's slightly amorphous, who cares? I care. Ooh, I love them so much. I use them all the time. I'm not usually out here making a full kind of like bulleted list of dot points with them, but I do love to use them to just highlight like, this is the most important thing of the day. Pay attention to this. Like, please cast thine gaze upon this task because that is what you need to get done. Or I'll use them for decoration. Like, I'm not out here doing hardcore dot art that some people do. Like, they do very beautiful designs with them and such. But I do like to add a little bit of kind of, visual interest to the corner of a page or something, fill in a little bit of white space because I'm like allergic to it or something. I've also used it on a monthly calendar to like highlight the day numbers or whatnot. So you just have that kind of like dedicated spot to put the numbers in. I don't really use monthly calendars anymore, so I don't use it like that anymore, but I did. When I first got them, I was like, okay, we'll try these out because they're kind of interesting, I suppose, and maybe we can like make a video for it or something like that. Not really expecting that I was going to enjoy them enough to actually use them on a day-to-day kind of basis, but now they are a daily use. Like, every day I'm getting out my dot marker to dot the thing that is going to be the most important at the very least. Sometimes I'll use it on like a habit tracker or whatnot. You can use it on a year at a glance calendar to highlight specific days. I use a lot of them for like kind of more functional reasons or things that like help me use my journal productively, I suppose, but they're just a lot of fun. I love using them. Little dot, dot.
It's so funny that like that's definitely your thing. Like even last episode, you were talking about how much you loved like the markers, right? And the comment section was just like equal love for the dot markers as well as it went down, which was amazing. Yeah, it's just not the one that I typically go and grab for. It's definitely something I'm like, oh, I want to do this thing. Oh, I forgot I have all these dot markers. I should probably use them. So to hear that is really fun. I think to like know like this is it for me. And like you said, it changes over time. Like you said, Jess was a hater. I definitely was a hater too. I can't say like I'm a hardcore lover, but like I'm an appreciator of the dot marker, to say like it has a job to do. It can be fun. But like even seeing that over time and progressing through and how it changes. And who knows, a year from now, when we do a similar episode of like what's our favorite of this year, we might not even know who the dot marker is anymore. We may have found a square marker instead of a dot that like you like, squares instead of dots now. Who knows? Or just something like I don't even do that. Like Jess is gonna become this like ultra minimalist. Like you started as this like maximalist with all the colors and all the brush pens and drawing and all this stuff. And then like next year you're gonna be like the hardcore, straight laced, like one pen, one notebook, no decoration whatsoever. No, that'll never be you. But it's just funny to see that. It's like a maturity over time, but not that you're growing out of it. You're just refining your likes and your loves.
Yeah, no, it's going to be me next year with like this episode being like our favorite pens from the year. And you're just like, I love this fountain pen. I love this fountain pen. And I'll be like, I have this mechanical keyboard now because everything is digital and I've scrapped all my notebooks.
And you know what? And nothing would be wrong with that. Jess is actually like my favorite pen is not even something you'll hold in your hand now. It is, I draw with my eyes. That's how I click on my screen when I want something with my eyes. I don't write anymore. That would be okay.
Yeah, just like motion tracking to see where I'm looking to like add tasks.
You're like, actually, don't write. My hands are now. She's just got like the pros on or whatever they're called, and you're just like touching into the sky to like move all of your things along and around. It would be fantastic. No, that would be
just
very
like
sad.
VR planning with like a like VR keyboard, just like
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think the only reason I want like Vision Pros or Samsung just came out with a very similar XRs or something they're called, I don't know, is because I want to look like I'm in Minority Report. Like I want to like put my task list over here and click it over here. So like as I'm working, I can be like, next thing done. Like I don't know. I think that would be so fun, but I would miss the tactileness of writing because it's been such a big part of my life now and will be forever. Like I'm gonna have pens and I'm gonna be able to give to like my children and my grandkids in the future. Like that's my goal at this point. Some people, have jewelry. I have fountain pens.
These are the family heirlooms, like family jewels kind of a thing, like passed down through the generations.
Yeah. Like I hope that when I get older, no one's like, what is all this pen crap that grandpa had, like from the grave. Like, don't you dare. That ink is still good. There's a little bit left in that pen. Don't you dare throw that away.
My dad was literally talking with me about this the other day, not specifically pens, but more so like models, because he does figurines and such, and think about, like, oh, well, I really want to get the maximum enjoyment out of them possible, so I'm probably not going to sell them on before I pass, type of a thing. And he's like, and then it'll be your problem. I'm like, yep, thanks, Dad. Always love thinking about that.
Awesome. And already I'm like, oh no, we would put that inside of a chest or a thing to show them up on the wall because they're just that cool.
Well, slightly morbid ending aside, Planner Pals, we would love to know what are your favorite pens, whether they're just regular writing pens, whether they're the fanciest of the fountain pens that are out there, or the fanciest of the regular writing pens that aren't fountain pens but you still love them. We want to know. We want you to penable us. Please let us know what we need to put on our shopping list or our wish list so that maybe we could get some of those before the new year. Let us know either in the comments on YouTube, or you can hit us up at plannerpalspodcast@gmail.com, or head over to Instagram at plannerpalspodcast.
As always, Jess, I love talking about pens. We need another fountain pen episode. Maybe in the new year, if you can stomach it again, I would love to do it because it's so much fun. And maybe by that time you will actually have changed the ink inside of your pen, or maybe a new one. You never know, like, what could happen in the future. All right, Planner Pals. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, talking about our favorite pens. We can't wait to hear from you, and we'll talk to you next time.